Hello, everyone. Looks like we've already got a few people signed in. And you'll have to forgive me. This is the first one of these that I've actually hosted, so I'm getting used to the controls. Feel free to raise your hand. I'm trying to figure out how to turn off the spotlight thing so we can actually see everybody. Let's see. Okay. So as attendees, they don't have a video capability. Let's see. I'm setting it where everyone can be allowed to talk. Because I have a feeling
dangerous.
Yeah, it is, but I have a feeling that we're going to need to have some discussion. But I will ask that once we get started, that everybody give me a chance to go through things, and we will be good. All right. And of course, if anybody gets a little unruly, apparently I can mute you. Hey, that's dangerous for me. That's dangerous for me to have. All right, I think we about one more minute. And then we'll get started. So it looks like we have 20 people so far. I'm always amazed at how many people want to sign on to a webinar to find out about the logos we have to make. That's All right. All right. Well, got a few more people filtering in here.
Okay. Maybe you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Okay.
I'm unmuting everyone as they're coming on for now.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello, hello. All right, so we're going to go through a brief presentation first, and hopefully that'll answer some questions at a time, and then we'll go into sort of the question and answer section.
Just 4 o'clock.
If you don't need to talk, feel free to mute yourself. I will set it up where everyone can talk. There you go. If they want to. So you're taking responsibility for yourself, and you can mute or unmute yourself at will.
And I hear stuff in the background, feedback coming through.
Okay, I don't think that's for me. I've got everything battened down here. So let's see.
National Emergency Nurses Week. The Real City is taking time to honor these real-life superheroes and taking it to the next level.
Can't really tell where it's coming from.
Yeah, just mute everybody and let them start over.
Loved ones of Neil Marcon preparing to say their final farewell. Funeral services for that 19-year-old.
Nope, still looking. Can't figure out where the background noise is coming from. If that's your TV in the background, could you please mute for now?
That work is happening right now at the Cooper City Church of God. That's where we find MD36s still more inside.
Culprits are usually oblivious. Just mute us all.
I think I'm going to have to.
Yeah, just mute everybody.
In the community tonight, family members, loved ones, they're all here gathering to remember the life.
Yeah, whoever's got the news running in the background, that's them.
Yep, trying to find it.
I think that might be me. Can you turn me off?
John? Okay, hang on.
Yeah.
Well, it says you're muted.
Huh, okay.
But let me see. Oh, there we go. All right, sorry, John. You're gonna have to bear with me while I get started here. All right. Welcome, everyone. We are here today to talk about the rollout for the logo system that BMW Corporate has asked us to implement. As if you attended the last webinar, or if you've seen stuff that's been going on in the meantime, BMW has recently updated all their branding, and it has finally filtered down to us. So we've spent most of the last year working to get everyone's logos up to speed according to their new guidelines. There are quite a few details in those guidelines that will affect many logos, but they were very generous and they grandfathered in any designs that had been previously approved. Now we'll go into more detail of that in the presentation, but at the moment, except for 2 chapters which are outliers, every single chapter currently has at least one of the 2 required versions approved for use. So we are right on the tail end of this. We are getting ready to do the full rollout, and I'm going to give you details on how that rollout is right now is currently planned. Keep in mind these plans might change, but let's see what's coming. Get this out of the way here. There we go. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Share my host. All right. Screen 2. All right. Can everybody see the screen? All right. So this is a quick little presentation I put together for this specific presentation. Threw it together today. Sorry, it's been a little bit busy. We just got the roundel out the door, and been getting everything ready for OFest and Legends in just a couple of weeks. So been a little bit scrambling around here. All right. So today being October 13th is a little appropriate. So not the most lucky day today, but let's see how we can go tonight. All right. First thing first. Every single chapter and national, non-geographic, everybody now has to have 2 separate versions of the logo to be in line with the guidelines. The first is closest to what we have used in the past, and they're calling it the fallback version. It's the one with the white background. And then what they were calling the primary originally, now they're just calling the transparent version, is the one that they will have noted is for preferred use, and that's transparent. Now you can see here on the left, I've used 2 similar pictures to give you little examples of some of the basic usage guidelines. For the fallback version, use it for anything that would conflict with the design or that is too busy to work well as with the transparent version. My expectation is that's going to end up being the most widely used one. Can't say that for sure. But when you do have cases such as the image on the right, where you have large areas that are dark or solid color that contrast well with the logo, they do ask us to please use this preferred version. All right. And if anyone has questions, feel free to chime in and I'll see if I can answer them as we go. All right, going on to the next page. All right, the other thing is that all of the base logos, the original ones that we have to send for approval, now have to be completely vector. They had always preferred that in the past, but now it's required. But there are 2 different types of logo files that we will be delivering to you as part of this rollout. The first on the left is vector. Now these are also sometimes called Adobe Illustrator files, vector EPS, or vector PDF files. These files, everything in them is described as points and curves, so it's all mathematical. And that means that this design can be scaled to pretty much any size without losing any resolution. It can be adapted, and this type can be used to create any raster versions you might need. So we'll have both vector and raster for both the primary and the transparent versions. Now raster, what I mean by that are things that are made up of pixels, like your photographs or printed paper, stuff like that. And the primary file types we deal with as raster images would be JPEGs, PNG files, or TIFF files. Now, because one of the versions of this logo has to be transparent, we have to eliminate using JPEGs for that transparent version. So it will have to be either PNG files or TIFF files. And we're just going to default and go ahead and use PNG files, since those are more widely accessible because you can even look at them in a web browser and things like that. Now, the problem with using pixel or raster-based versions is that depending on the size you're using them, the resolution and the sharpness of it changes. There are two primary numbers that we work with when we're dealing with raster images. The first is screen resolution. Now, for the longest time, that has been 72 pixels per inch or dots per inch, however you want to phrase that. They essentially mean the same thing. And the other is print resolution, which is what I deal with the magazines and photography for those. And that's a minimum of 300 dots per inch. At those resolutions on your screen, you might still see some pixelation or something like that, but when it's viewed 1-to-1, 1 pixel to 1 pixel, pretty much all the lines will look smooth, all of the text will look crisp. But if you take one of those and you use it in print, then you'll be able to see, obviously, that it doesn't look as sharp, not as smooth, not as clean. Now, I've tried to give you an example here on the screen. On the left, you can see the vector version, how sharp it is. We could blow that up as big as we want. Those edges would still be razor sharp. But here on the right, this is a PNG version that's been blown up to a little over twice its size, well, close to 3 times. Now, you can see over here on the right-hand side, far right, that is a 1-to-1. It looks sharp. It looks just pretty much as good. It looks just about as good as anything else. But when you blow it up past that 1-to-1 size, you start getting the stair-stepping, the fuzziness, and it doesn't look very good. So it's preferred to use the vector versions when possible. But when you're doing things like for websites or Instagram or things like that, you'll likely need to use the PNG version of it, or the raster version. And then it's always good to keep a good handle on the sizes you're dealing with and making sure that you're using it as close to 1-to-1 as possible. All right, trying to tell, it's hard, this interface is a little different. I'm guessing someone might have their hand up, but I can't tell for sure. All right. Okay, well, you should be able to unmute yourself. If you can't, we'll catch you here in a minute. Let me run through the rest of the presentation first. All right, for the chapter launch package, here is what you'll be receiving. You'll get the vector of both the fallback and transparent version and a raster version of the fallback and transparent version. Now, we're going to be giving you a print resolution size at their recommended size, which is about 2.5 to 3 inches tall. So that'll be 300 DPI, and then we'll give you a couple of web and screen resolution ones. The vector, those are all, they can be used at any size. They are editable, but due to the nature of the approval process and that, we ask that you not alter the logos themselves. And it is definitely important to know that the vector version can be used to create raster versions of any size or DPI. So if you don't have a size or you aren't able to do that conversion yourself, just send me a note. We can crank one out for you pretty quick. I just need to know the size it's going to be used at and what the purpose is, and then I can get you a raster version that should match that need. All right. Now, here is the information about why some of the new logos are still going to have things that are banned by the new guidelines. And that's because BMW was very generous in grandfathering in most of the SIGs that had been previously approved. The rules to that were that it had to match the design BMW had previously approved, and they had to have a record of it. So the one that we were providing had to match the one that they already had listed as approved. Now, if we had a chapter that had updated their logo, but it hadn't gone through the formal approval process and wasn't in their records, we weren't able to use that one. We had to use the most recent version that had gone through the full approval process and that matched the one in their records. There were a few things that even those grandfathered in ones we had to adjust. And if it was a significant adjustment, I tried to reach out to the chapter and let the chapter know and get a view of what we were doing. If it was minor, like mainly just adjusting it to the ratio of the new SIG size, since it's all uniform now, then that was just pretty basic. It was going to have to happen that way anyway. One of the other things is logos that use a large field of white behind them. We had to alter that to a 5 to 8% black, very, very light gray, because they wanted to make sure that on the fallback version that the border and the outline of the SIG area was well defined. So we had to do that even for ours. For the national one, you'll notice it's got a sort of a light gray background behind it, because we weren't allowed to just keep that as white or blank. And the big one, the one that the one that took a while for me to get done was every single one I sent that had any kind of complex gradient or 3D effect or shadows got kicked back, and they asked us to adjust the SIG to, quote, flatten it. So I had to go in and do a lot of those, and those are the ones that I primarily tried to share with the chapters. Now, oddly, a couple of very subtle gradients did get past their approval process and made it through the grandfathering, but a lot of the others, you'll notice there's probably a little less depth in the version of the logo that you'll receive. Now, again, if a design you've been working with or that you preferred was unapproved in their system, then I wasn't able to use that. Now, we do have another couple of months left of the year. So once we get the rollout done, which should be done the next week or two, I ask everyone to hold off on your redesigns until we get the rollout finished, and then we'll be able to handle chapter updates on a case-by-case basis, and it should be a lot smoother. Both Eva and Julia in Munich have been reeling from the sheer number of logos we've been dealing with, as have I. Technically, we sort of have to have 3 versions of every logo. We have to have the fallback, the transparency, but I also have to provide a transparency with a colored background for the records too, so that they can see how it looks as the transparent logo. So that's about 180 logos that we've been playing around with. It's so much fun. All right. Here are the next steps for the chapter launch. The official date of required use for the new logos is January 1st. Anything new after January 1st, like if you're making hats or shirts or banners or tablecloths, stuff like that, we ask that you please utilize the new logo from that point on. Your existing merchandise, however, like your flags, your tents, everything that has your current logo in it, those are still completely usable. Just use them till they wear out, you're fine. No one's going to come around and go, oh my gosh, that's the wrong logo. Yeah. At best, a BMW exec might go, oh, I see you're using the old one still. Or you can just say, yeah, we still had it, and you guys didn't give us money to buy new ones. So there you go. So as things wear out, or as you replace new ones, or as you order new things, please use the new logo. And utilize the official club guidelines for the usage examples. They go into a lot more detail in the guidelines. They did update them again. I think the latest version came out in October, where the prior one had come out in July. So both of those of last year. So subtle details, they changed some of the terminology, but overall it was pretty much the same. All right, now if you want a new design, and I expect several chapters will want a new design after seeing the wonderful work that we did on the new logos. They'll go, well, this could look a lot better if we did something to it. Well, keep in mind that any redesign or significant update will have to adhere strictly to those guidelines. And I want to bring out some of the points that, the grandfather designs really benefited from, but we won't be able to use these in any new designs. And the first is no motorsport colors. Now you're going to see all of the other logos. I'd say probably 50% of our chapter logos have motorsport colors in them. Now, if they didn't change it, they get to keep them for now until they want to redesign. But anything in the future, no motorsport colors. The one exception is the only non-geographic chapter we have that was approved for pairing. Now, pairing is what they're doing for very specific chapter types, such as an M chapter or an I chapter, where they already have an established corporate logo, and they're letting us put a small actual M logo right next to the round L. That is the only one that is approved for that, and that is the only placement where we can use the actual motorsport logo, even in the SIG area for that. And it was a matter of us being stubborn and them finally, saying, okay, you can use the shape of the M down there. We'd gone through, I can't even tell you how many iterations of that logo we went through trying to get something that would pass muster. It took forever, but we do actually have an M chapter logo that does have the actual M logo on it. Yay. All right. So other than that one, in the custom SIG area, there can be no BMW trademarks or similar marks. And I left off one thing here. You can't also repeat the chapter name or have much text in there. They don't want that in any new design. We have a couple that ran afoul of that, so we're having to get adjustments made. It has to be a vector design. And when they're saying vector, they're also meaning clean and sort of flat style. So there can be no photos or raster elements, and then also no gradients, shadows, 3D effects, anything that would like make it sort of, those are sort of dated designs anyway. And this last one, which is, I'd say pretty subjective, but they've been fairly accepting so far with the ones I've sent them, is it has to be legible and reproducible cleanly. Now, the examples they've given for that would be like lapel pins or something embroidered with the logo on it. It has to be recognizable. The text on it has to be readable, all of those fun things. So now one thing I've included, and this, we're making this presentation PDF downloadable. If you look down here in the bottom right of this final page, you're going to see all the color codes. Now, they did this in the July version of the guidelines, but they took it out of the October version. Any of you who've done any kind of design work for BMW knows that they are notorious for not telling you what their color formulas are. So this is just a little sort of a little gold mine here to me. These are their official cool grays, their blues that they're using for BMW M, BMW I, and I believe the new Roundel blue. That's also something they did change the blue of the Roundel, which means that now I have to change every single thing that we built. I got to change all those blues too. So that's going to be fun over the next couple of months getting ready for January. But I wanted to leave this in here just so that you guys would have a good reference point, so that if you're doing anything where you wanted a particular color and you really want it to match, now you have the formulas for that. All right, so I'm going to turn off screen sharing for now, and we can get into the discussion phase. All right, so I think anyone who wants to, I see we've got a few more people. Let me make sure everyone is allowed to talk. Allowed to talk. It's asked me to promote some people to panelists if they want to talk. I'm not sure what that is, but oh my goodness, there's so many more people on here than I expected. Okay, sorry, this might take a second. But I'm sure somebody has a question already. I think I'm getting everyone set up. All right, only GP944, whoever you are, I'm not entirely sure how to get to allow you to talk. It's got some sort of strange setting on there for you. And let's check the chats. All right.
Can you hear me? This is Simon from Boston.
I can hear you, Simon.
Hey, so is it when 2 weeks out we'll see what our new logos look like, or the old logo that's been refreshed?
Yes, and actually, sorry, my time got away from me today. I was planning to show you all sheets, but what I can do is I'm going to pull up a couple of test sheets here in just a second, and then I'll share my screen again. Let me get out of a couple things here. But yes, everybody does have one, and let's see if I can find a good way to do this. I went through all of them again today, and I discovered an Adobe Illustrator bug that is going to mean I have to do a little extra work. Apparently, even when because I did all of the different design styles in the same Illustrator file for each one, and then I saved them as vector PDFs because that's what we're going to use as the base one. I discovered that when I use Acrobat to separate them, Illustrator still sees both files in every single PDF, which means there's a risk of you getting the wrong version when you place that into a layout or something. So I've got to go back through and manually fix that. But let's get into here. All right, so first up, okay, I'm going to go from East Coast to West Coast, and I'm going to see if I can get these to pull up in a way that you guys can actually see them. So let's start with North Atlantic. And it might look a little crazy here at first because I'm going to just get them to show up as extra large icons. So they're all still going to have a little Adobe thing on them. Make it look better. Can you get them bigger? Nope. 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 All right. Well, let's see how this works. Yes. I'll share the screen. And 2. All right. So I don't know if I can force it to get these bigger, but I don't think they will. So as you can see in the alternating ones, we've got Allegheny, both fallback and transparent. I don't have the transparent with the color background yet, so it looks a little funky right now, mainly because the file I have to give you can't have a colored background in it or it won't show up as transparent. So we got Allegheny, Boston, Connecticut Valley, Delaware, Genesee Valley, Green Mountain Chapter, Mountain State Chapter, New Jersey, New York, Nittany Bimmers, Patroon, Pine Tree, Pocono, Trillium, and White Mountain. Any questions on any of those? I can pull up individual ones and make them look bigger with the preview option. There you go.
Hey, Len, Mike Allen, New York chapter. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so how much work is it going to be for me to change the Twin Towers to the Freedom Towers?
That shouldn't take too much. I mean, yours doesn't have anything that conflicts with the new guidelines. So pretty much if you just send me a new design, or do you need my assistance in doing that?
Yeah, well, I have the design, but it's in JPEG.
Okay. Well, if you can send it to me, I can guarantee you I have spent 2 months transferring raster versions of these into vectors, so I got that down pat.
Later tonight or tomorrow, email you the Freedom Towers that we have instead of the Twin Towers. All right.
Certainly, that's perfectly fine, and that one get approved without any. I don't anticipate any trouble with that.
Thank you very much.
No problem. All right. Any other questions for North Atlantic? All right. Now let's go to South Atlantic. Extra large icons. All right, now one of these, actually 2 of these are ones that aren't quite usable yet. One is River City because right now that chapter is defunct or inactive. I'm not sure how to phrase that. And the other is Tidewater. They are currently reassessing their logo and redesigning it. This is a version that I created for them based on a design that they had submitted that did not pass. So that shouldn't take too long to get fixed once they settle on it. So we've got Bayou, Blue Ridge, Choo Choo, Everglades, Florida Suncoast. And we did have to do a little adjustment on that. This is a new SIG for them, but we got requests. We had to remove the BMW from the car. And that's something they've never asked for in the past, but with these new guidelines, that's the level of scrutiny we're getting on some of these. And it's easy to tell which ones were grandfathered in. Anything that has any version of the motorsport colors is the existing SIG. Now, here's another new one that we did have to adjust. Originally, they wanted to have motorsport colors in it, but they got rejected. So we've redesigned it. So now that it's, I gave them some options. They came back with this one, which is even prettier. It's a beautiful flowing American flag in it. So Old Hickory, Peachtree. And Peachtree is an example of one where we had to take the gradients and the 3D effects out. It had to be very flattened. And I didn't enjoy doing that, but I did. Now, and then also here's a version that got approved that still has some gradients in it. Now, surprisingly, they didn't ask me to change this. And I have a feeling that when they, but I do still have to send the transparent version back in, and I have a feeling they're going to notice it, then I'm going to have to flatten it, but we'll see. It's a lot of times these are, they go by, but And then in the next round, I'll get another little red note next to that one. Can you please remove the gradients from this one? Yeah, so. All right, any questions on South Atlantic?
Hey, Len, it's Simone.
Hey,
Hey, River City. So we, as of October 1st, have blended the members from River City with the Old Hickory chapters. So
okay, very good. All right. Theirs got submitted in en masse and got approved before I realized that. It was definitely before. So that'll just be moved to the archive in case something ever happens in the future. All right. Now we'll go to North Central. And thank you, Simone, for that information. I do appreciate that. For those who don't know, Simone is our South Atlantic Regional Vice President. All right, for this one, here is Badger Bimmers, Bluegrass Bimmers. Oh, Bluegrass Bimmers is also an unusual case. Now, you'll notice it has motorsport colors in it. They did not have any record of this one being approved. And I didn't either. But I had records dating back 11 years showing it had been in continual use. And to their credit, BMW looked at that and said, well, if it's been used for 11 years and no one's complained about it, we're going to consider it to have, we're going to say for this one, we're going to say it was approved. And so they allowed us to continue using it. Hoosier chapter is another one that I don't know if we ever fully heard back from the chapter or not on this one, but they had a lot of complex gradients and shadows and glow effects in this. Even the background was a blended thing, and that got kicked back to me twice before I just literally converted it all to vector and went in and rebuilt it from scratch. This one got approved, and hopefully it is close enough to the original, or the chapter is ready to change into a new design, so that this isn't quite as offensive as someone might think it is for, you know, horribly.
Len, this is Joe Vernon from the Hoosier chapter.
Oh, yes.
And I never received anything. I don't think anybody of my officers or that either received anything where you were having difficulty with the with this logo. So
I must have sent it to an old address. Sometimes the information I get it doesn't go to the right place, but you can see it here. Let me get your, if you can, shoot me an email, and I want to get this to you so we can look at it and see if there's any adjustments you guys want to make. If you want to keep this design, if we keep this design, we can keep the motorsport colors. If we change it, then we do have to adhere to the guidelines. But I wasn't sure, but that's usually been my question when I'm able to send these out and get feedback. So hopefully it doesn't look too offensive. I tried to keep it as close to the original as possible, but they kicked it back more than once, so I had to go as flat as I could while still keeping like some gradients in the tires and things.
Yeah, well, I think I sent you an email. I have to go back and check my emails, but you had sent out an email that said, you know, that the club was working on these and so forth, and we hadn't heard anything. And I sent you an email, and you responded that I think it was during the time to where GA was going through some changes and so forth, and that's kind of the last we heard. So
I apologize. I can say this project has been a bit more work than I anticipated.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'll send you an email so we can touch base. And I think there's some other Hoosier chapter members that are on this call, and we may take a look at redesigning this logo, because it is quite complicated. I know we've had difficulty in the past getting it reproduced locally for items and so forth. So we'll take it offline and we'll discuss with you later.
Perfect. And let me know if I can assist further. This is a case of, we started getting pressure from BMW to try to get this project completed by the end of September. That was unanticipated originally. They were trying to get it ready for the International Council meeting. I'm not sure why, but we almost got it. We got just about everything done. So that's unfortunately, that probably led to me falling down the job a bit and making sure I was communicating with each chapter where they're getting significant changes. Now, one that is if there's anyone on the call from Motor City chapter, I will need to confer with you guys directly. This is a converted version of your existing logo, but we cannot find, we found where it was submitted, or at least BMW did, but we cannot find where it was ever approved. It got stalled in their system and was rejected. So they have rejected it again, and I need to get with you guys to get a working logo for you. And here's another one where it has some gradients in it, but somehow it has one gradient in it, and it passed. So, hey, there you go. St. Louis, however, they made me pull all the gradients out of this one. But to be honest, it looks so much like, oh, sorry, 3% distance raised down. Looks like I'm neglecting my duties here. How do I see who raised their hands? All right, tell you what, let me jump out of screen sharing real quick and I can see things a little better in that interface. All right, has anybody raised their hand that cannot speak? I see that Barbara, Linda, Coggins, and Mike Allen have their hands up. Feel free to just chime in, and Andy Wiest and Kathy Felter.
This is Linda Coggins from the Tidewater, Virginia chapter.
Yes, ma'am.
I know we were having some problems. We're redoing our logo, and we had a meeting yesterday, and I received a sample of what it was going to be, and I'm wondering, is that acceptable now? Has it been approved?
Oh, the version that I showed here, the one with just the 3 blue waves, that hasn't been submitted yet.
Yes.
Yeah, that one has not been submitted. Right,
okay.
Because I have been to communicate with the chapter president, and he likes it and thinks they might base a new design off of it, but he hasn't provided a final design yet.
Okay. All right. Well, then we're still working on that.
That's perfectly all right. We've got another couple of good months. We got plenty of time to get these updated.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. All right. Any other questions for North Central? All right. Let's scoot on over to Central. Let me get it pulled up here and reshare my screen.
Say, Len, this is Jeff Goman.
Hey, Jeff.
Will the central region also have the non-geographical chapters as well?
I'm going to show those separately in their own folder.
Right.
But yes, I'll send it to you as well. Let me make sure. Where is my preview panel now?
Thanks.
There it is. All right. All right. Now let's see. Let me double check all these. Yeah. All right. Now here are all the ones for here. And oh, I can see that I missed an update on Kansas City. One of the things with Kansas City is they have this wonderful Bavarian flag.
Can you share your screen?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I had. Oh, I have it pulled up. I just haven't shared button. There you go. All right. They have this beautiful Bavarian flag style design in there. And one of the things I have to do, because the original was transparent, is I need to go back in and make sure that I have given them a white background behind the states. I did that in this one, so I'll make sure that it's updated here before we do any kind of rollout. And I think I still have to send this one with the colored background to Munich for final confirmation on the transparent version anyway. All right.
Hey, Len.
Yes, ma'am.
It's Kathy Felter with Kansas City chapter.
Yes.
So we have discussed the fact that this logo is not easy to reproduce, and print is fine, but especially in embroidery.
Oh yeah.
So the Bavarian flag in this motorsport kind of wavy pattern, that's not an issue, is it?
No. Bavarian flags are
so
fine.
if we were to just enlarge the pattern on this and maybe get rid of the 3 yellow dots, that would be something that would potentially be okay for
Oh,
logo, yes?
yeah, I don't anticipate any problems getting that approved. It matches
Okay,
with,
because
it
yeah,
abides.
having the star and the dots for the Kansas City, Wichita, and Springfield areas where we have our majority of our membership, I don't think is necessarily necessary on it, and maybe having fewer, making it less busy might be easier to make it reproducible.
Sure, sure. And,
I just don't want to make something that's so complicated that it's going to be hard to get approved.
I completely understand. Certainly. And if you need flag designs or checker flag designs, I've got a couple of resources that we use for work and then for personal projects that have lots of those available, all different shapes, sizes, and sizes of patterns. So just shoot me an email and we can get you some of those. Or if you have an artist who wants to handle that, more power to you.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. Now, the Tejas chapter, I hated they had some wonderful gradients that, made the flag look more 3D and stuff. And that got kicked back to me twice, so I ended up having to flatten it. I did send this to them, and we've gotten some feedback that they're planning to change it, but let's just wait till the rollout's done, then we'll handle these all individually. And even with just elements like this, you'll be fine. That doesn't intrude on anything of the new guidelines. All right. Any other questions about Central? And when I'm sharing my screen, you can raise your hand, but if you want, just go ahead and just speak out, because it's hard for me to see who's raised their hand. It tells me someone has, but.
Hey, Len, this
Yes.
is Albert over in Houston.
Yes.
Do they have to have the gray background?
Unfortunately, they do. That was one of the things that annoyed the heck out of me. Yeah, the fallback version, as you can tell, it has a white background on it. And they didn't want any of these to not be within that box, and they wanted the box to be visible. I don't know if they think this might be some sort of way people would try to pass things off as being more official than they really are. I don't know, but they insisted.
So if I get the gumption to change it through the committee and they want to do that, the point is we have to fill that gray area with some said color.
Correct. Okay. It has to be some color other than white. Awesome. And I've tried to get permission to do white on the transparent version, and so far they've just consistently said no. So.
Alrighty, thanks.
But yeah, that was because the map logo doesn't fit into this area very cleanly. It's about like the Texas logo here. You can either center it, but left or right. Right now, we've got it scooted over to the right in our version. But there's not a whole lot you can do with it within this more constrained space. Now, in the past, we didn't need this border box around it, and it looked like a much cleaner logo. But now, in addition to having to change the map logo itself, because we need something that's more in line with the new round L, I've had to put this light gray box behind it, and I don't know. I'm still working with it. Maybe we'll find something a little more pleasing. But for now, we have one that's been approved, and we'll use it until we decide to submit something new. All right. So that's Central. Yes, sir.
Len, Mike Allen again from the New York chapter.
Yes, sir.
Is it fair for me to assume that once we make changes and coordinate it with you, that you will address ensuring that these changes are in all of the repositories that National has,
sure,
in publications, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, I've apparently become the guardian of the logos or something. So yeah, our goal right now is making sure we have official approved ones for everybody, and then doing the rollout. And like for Bimmer Life magazine, that's one reason we held off for the fall issue, is because we didn't have approved ones for everyone. And I didn't want to go in half, whatever, with some of them being the new design, some being the old design. So we just held on to all the old ones until then.
Okay.
With the spring issue of Bimmer Life, all the chapters will be represented by the new logos we have that have been officially approved. If there is one, and keep in mind that because of the nature of Bimmer Life, You know, the submission deadline is going to be December 15th for the chapters, but then I have to immediately start building it for it to go out in March. It's a big project, but one of the first things I'm going to do is slightly redesign all the chapter pages to accommodate the new logos, and get some of the other styling a little more in tune with things. I also have to change all the Bimmer Life blues to the new blues. Okay, but yes, any place that we have, and I'm hoping we're going to be able to provide each chapter with a download link for the package, and then that will be your official download link. Whenever anything gets updated, that package will get updated. So it might take a day or two after the approval process, but it is going to be one of the priorities for that, to make sure that when you come to our resources, you're getting the most up-to-date thing.
Will we have access to other chapters' logos? I know I have a, this is Florida Suncoast. We have a graphic that has all the state of Florida and all three logos on there, distinguishing which part belongs to which part.
We can probably arrange that through the RVP. If you know, I don't see any reason why you shouldn't be able to see other chapter logos. I mean, you're going to be able to see them, but I would probably leave it up to the individual chapter to decide whether they want the actual files provided to another chapter. I don't know if that would be an issue for anyone or not, but that sounds sort of prudent to me, to make sure that, you know, the chapter, that their logo is going to be used in something that they know about it, and fixing it where you need to simply ask them for it and then they can provide it to you, or the RVP acts as the middle person and gets the approval so that we can share it that way. The RVPs, I do intend to make sure that they have a full list and full set of links for everyone's logos, so that if, say, I'm not available and someone needs something and maybe the website's down or something, or maybe it's not accessible to everyone all at once, that the RVPs can help connect the dots and provide those to the individual chapters as needed. So I'm hoping to have different ways for you to be able to get access to those things, but in our initial rollout, I haven't planned to make each chapter's logos available to all the other chapters at this time. I know I talked around that and sort of the circle finally coming to that point, but hopefully that answers your question.
Hey, Len, it's Simone. I'll facilitate that with the Florida chapters.
Sounds good.
This is Bob Z from the Sunshine chapter, Sunshine
Yes,
Bimmer. I have no problem with it. You don't need to contact me. It works fine for me.
Sounds good.
So, FSC, do what you need to do.
Thank you.
I figured everything would be hunky-dory, but you know, I never know. I try to not step on toes, but sometimes it happens anyway. All right,
Well,
so
we just want to represent it clearly. You know,
certainly.
That's all.
All right, I think we're at, let's see. So we did Central and we did North Central. Is that correct? I'm losing track of things here. All right, so here is Pacific. And I think all of these are approved. And I think the only ones that had to have any kind of unusual change, and I'm a little worried about this one right here, about Hawaii. I'm a little worried about this top line. They haven't come back to me with a comment on it yet. And I'm hoping that they'll just ignore it when I send them the version with the color background for their final approval on it. But I'm a little worried because it's a white stripe against a white background. And they have called me out on that before. I try to get things by them, but sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Puget Sound is one of these that had the subtle background gradient that they let go through. So that was fine. However, poor Sin City, I felt bad. I had to essentially flatten a really beautiful design. I tried to keep it as clean and nice as possible, and almost every pixel is almost in the same place. I just had to remove all the 3D effects and shading. I did send this to them, and while they were thrilled, they gave their approval. All right.
Well,
So
Len, it looks like the Inland Empire has a gradient going clear across the bottom as well.
they do, and Inland is one that I believe they've been using a different one but it hasn't gone through the formal approval process. So I need to get with some members of the Inland Empire to find out how they want to proceed. For this one, since it did have the motorsport colors in it, I went ahead and submitted it since it was the one that matched the one they had approved on file. And they didn't mention the gradient. I was a little surprised. I've had a strong feeling I was going to have to make that just a solid blue stripe and then sort of a white or gray area to the left of it. But they didn't request that. So I don't know. So if Inland,
Len?
yes, sir.
This is Larry. Is there any way to fight harder for BMW Car Club of America to be in the same weight font? I know it's been like that for all the things. It just reads so wrong. BMW Car Club of America should be in the same weight font.
They're doing it to everyone.
America, you know? That's just wrong.
I can say one thing about their design choices, that when they make them, they then enforce them pretty equally as far as something like that. I'm not thrilled with it either. I would have preferred it, you know, of America to have the same weight as BMW Car Club, but no, they flat out, they let me know pretty early on that a lot of these things were non-negotiable. One of the issues we did have with them was that we have a couple of chapter names that are too long for this at the font size they're using. They would literally, if we kept them without concatenation, they would stretch past the edge that they're allowed to meet. And unlike the last versions, we aren't allowed to change the shape of this one in any way at all. So everything has to be the exact same size, exact same placement. We came up with some compromises on a couple of them, but they made it very clear that even though they've got some country ones that won't fit, they aren't inclined to allow any adjustments to the fonts, to the sig size, or to pretty much the placement of anything on it. They want it all to be very, very conform to the guidelines or to the strictures that they have handed down from on high. So while I sympathize, I'm afraid it is above my pay grade to get that change made. All right, any other questions on Pacific? All right, well, I think all that's left are the non-geographic ones. So we'll take a quick look at those and I'll be able to show you the paired version. All right, so here is the M chapter. You know what? This is actually the wrong one because it should have the gray M right here. It does, I'm sure it's here as part of the file, but when we're making the fallback version, I must not have altered that color for it. But it does have the actual M logo right here. Let me actually see if I can pull that up real quick. And I'll fix that. There you are. And he has to be the exact same color as every other gray. So we'll just fix that. There you go. Notice they don't even have any space in between the red and the M now. But getting this shape down here, that was it wasn't really a battle of wills, but sort of a battle of we've got too much else to do. So let's finally just let them do it. I don't know how, I don't think that would work more than this one time. All right, come on, close out, close out. All right, so that'll update here in a second. There you go. All right, so that's the currently approved one. Now I know the M chapter isn't thrilled with this, and they're looking at the different designs, and hopefully we'll be able to find something that both represents the full range of M, which goes everywhere from, oh my goodness, it's astounding how many different types of M vehicles are out there now, but the M chapter can welcome them all. We had a similar issue with the X chapter. I don't know why originally they didn't want us to even use the letter X or the letter M, which made no sense to me, but we eventually gave up on trying to use the faceted one, and we just used this one, and this got approved. But all right. So I've sort of, I feel I've sort of devolved into just sort of complaining about the process, which is actually on far smoother than it had any right to. I can say that Eva and Julia over in Munich dealt with my constant questions and the long multi-column spreadsheet showing the status of every single thing that I sent to them and where it was, and they responded very well and sent back their own spreadsheet. So it has been a project. All right.
Hey, Len, this is Martin Bullen with the M chapter.
Yes, sir.
Seeing the E31 chapter logo, which incorporates the motorsport colors.
Yes.
And then looking at the M chapter logo, is there any way to incorporate those colors in a similar fashion across that band?
I could probably, I'm not sure if I ever reached 50 versions that I sent them trying to get approval, but it was pretty darn close. I have work files that have so many different, they were adamant that I could not use motorsport colors because it was a new design. The E31 got in because it got approved. It's a grandfathered design. And Frank has argued with them. I have argued with them that it makes no sense for us to have an official M chapter that can't have motorsport colors in the SIG area, but they won't let it go. But their compromise was that, but we're going to give you the special status for the paired logo. So you'll have the actual M logo on there. I was like, okay, not in the SIG area. But I was honestly, I was thankful that they finally gave in and let us use the M. And I even had versions of this M where this first triangle was the light blue, and then these triangles that make up the M were the dark blue, and then this last panel was red. And I may have even used that one in Memory Life. And I thought, sure, I was sure we were so close that they would finally, nope. They shut it down. And I was just like, ah! And so that's when I sort of dug my heels in. It's like, I just kept sending this one back to them. And they finally gave in and let us do it.
Appreciate your efforts. We would have liked that version. That's the version that, looking at it, just seems to make sense in relation to everything else. But
yeah, I can only say that my general sense of this is that, you know, they're dealing with all the different clubs in the world, and so they're trying to make sure that they're not giving too much during this phase. And it may be that we're able to have a better conversation, a deeper conversation, and a more convincing conversation to allow us to adapt this logo more appropriately. Now, one of the things that'll help us go a long way is if you guys can grow that M chapter by leaps and bounds.
Well, they are about, they're less than 10 or 15 people from 1,000 members, which is good. But this is Jeff. I know we talked about this. It just seems so odd that BMW, who is so stringent about their logos, that they would even allow them to not use the exact logo that they have on the cars. Why would they not, and the X as well, why would they not insist that it is the exact approved M logo? That's the part that blows me away. I just don't understand it.
Yeah, that would be the reasoning that I would think they would follow. But as you know, there's more than one M-oriented interest group in the US, and I think that might be where some of this comes from. Even though we are the official BMW Car Club, and this is the official M chapter of the official BMW Car Club, and we have all these relationships and agreements with BMW that the other one did not have, I think they may be sensitive in that way and just decided to make that part of the guidelines and then just to enforce it across the board, with the one compromise being the paired logo. Now, that is pure speculation on my part. I can't say for sure if that was the reasoning that went on. I am hopeful that once this whole very involved process is complete, and I know that Eva and Julia over in Munich are really wanting us to finish this rollout, because we are obviously the biggest the biggest batch of logos they've had to deal with. Once we can get that past that, and maybe as whichever design group was driving all of this sees it all settle in, and that, you know, people are doing a good job, maybe we can get a little more leniency in the future. My goal was to get us an approved logo that at least looked like it was, you know, some official M aspect to it. X was a little different. Now they have like 3 or 4 different corporate versions of their X. I wanted to go with the fasted one because that was like one of the originals. They shot that down immediately. They were like, nope, that's an official trademark. Nope. And then I kept sending them different X's, and they kept sending them back. And then I finally just kept sending the same one over and over again. So I liked this X version because not only does it look like an X, it's also a roundel just sort of turned to the side. So, you know, cut off by the mask there. So that felt better. It's still not exactly what I really wanted, but given the broad range of X vehicles, I knew we couldn't use something like a profile of a particular vehicle or something like that. X is the fastest growing, you know, arm of BMW. They're producing and selling more of those. So the X chapter has the greatest potential for growth. And if we can keep it something that's attractive, simple, easy to reproduce, easy to build and everything, and actually has a flippin' X on it, excuse my language, maybe we can represent the brand well. All right, and I can already see that I need to update the blue on this thing to the new blue. Great, all right, fine. All right, any questions on those? All right, well, I will open the floor to just general questions. Does anyone have any other questions on the process, how we've got to this point? Any additional questions about the changes or anything like that? And hang on just a second. Let me get the link for the presentation.
Hey Jeff, this is Stan with Florida Suncoast. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thanks. Sorry, I got off the plane late, so I got on about 5 or 7 minutes after you already started. Just for clarification, I think I've picked up on it, but I want to clarify. So you're going to roll out the approved logos in just a few weeks?
Yep, within a couple of weeks. The main thing now is we've got to get all the different versions and everything packaged in a way that makes sense, and then get those individualized and posted in the link. So that'll take a little bit of time.
So once we receive our package, we can't utilize them. We can't actually utilize them till 1/1.
No, you can start using them at any time once you receive them. But the date where we officially are required to start using them and discontinue use of the old logos on anything new that we're creating is January 1st.
Great, that's better than what I was going to ask. So that's good. We have a large campaign waiting on this logo, so that's good news for us. Thanks for all you do. Appreciate that.
No worries, no worries. And I will try to get these out as fast as possible. The only potential snag is, we got OFest and Legends November like 5th through whatever, and this week is also the deadline to get all the materials and signage, everything ordered for that. So it's been that takes a little bit of time.
Thanks for what you do. And hey, Bob Ziegler, we'll take good care of your logo. Thank you for the permission. And you can share ours if you need ours too. Just let us know. And we'd love to hear from Everglades. I'll go back on mute. Thanks.
Make sure that John can talk again, because I know he was on here. He's in here somewhere, or unless he signed off. I'm not seeing him right now. All right, well, John Van Worden was on earlier, so I'm afraid he doesn't appear to be on right now, but I'm sure he will get with you on the Everglades logo. Any other questions?
Yeah. Len, I see you've updated the new BMW CCA logo. You dropped the black also.
Yes. That's, that is what it is.
Okay.
I'm tweaking that too, because what they did with their logo is they're able to isolate the blue more from the lettering, and they've also had it overlapping their internal border on theirs. And our logo is just not structured that way. And I've tried different approaches to, actually I've tried multiple approaches to it, and different darknesses for our gray compared to their gray. The problem is the blue that they've chosen, when it's actually right up against their new gray, it creates a visual vibration. And that's not something you really want in a logo. So I've been experimenting with some slightly lighter grays that downplay that quite a bit, but then I run into the problem of it not being as reproducible. And with black, it just looks overwhelming, and it doesn't look like it goes with any new branding scheme at all. So we're still playing with it a little bit, but you might see different versions of it with different intensities of gray.
Man, do you have a professional opinion on the new transparent BMW Rondell corporate?
Well, since they hadn't updated it really since 1997, and companies, especially today with how fast the information age and attention spans are, doing something that retains a lot of the original character but still gives things sort of a fresh look and fresh approach is probably really good business. Now, I've noticed on some of the newer cars, such as that new Circular and some of the other concept vehicles that they've been coming out with, and some of the new I models, they're not using a dimensional, like particularly on the Circular, they aren't using a dimensional version of their logo at all. In fact, it's etched into the front of the car. So it's very flat, and this transparent version actually works well for that. It sort of goes with the general aesthetic for some of the new things they're doing. I think you're probably going to see what we indicated in the last issue of Bimmer Life, that they're probably going to be keeping two versions of everything. And because they have one that's sort of, I forget what they called it, but one was like progressive creative or something like that, and that is more like a sort of traditional enthusiast. So I have a feeling that most of the BMWs you see will still be coming out with the more traditional roundel on it, but the newer vehicles, the ones with the more sort of progressive, or however you want to call it, design, are going to be adopting the new type of logo. I know the sort of the counter argument would be, if they hadn't changed it, well, you know, they're just not keeping up with the times. They're not, you know, adapting their design. They're not refreshing their design.
So try to read the new Kia logo.
Oh gosh, yeah, it's like, really? Did you just have trouble with the protractor on that one?
Wait till Ford changes their script.
It looks a bit. The new Kia logo reminds me, it's like, well, you know, we really want to be Lexus, but we have 3 letters. Yeah. So we're just going to turn that L around a bunch of times and make it look like that. So that's me being cynical, but you know, as far as sort of modernist design, I'd say the new Kia logo is a bit better than the old Kia logo. But as with all of these things, your perception of it is quite subjective. It depends, and I try to take it from the context that it's being used in. And I have a feeling that BMW is going to keep their older logo for certain contexts, but then use the new one for, you know, whatever new inventions or things they come forward. Honestly, the thing I'm probably the most irked about is they changed their blue. That, anyone who knows me and knows Frank knows that the one thing we've been going back and forth over for the past 9 years is the color blue, and exactly which color blue we should be using. So that is a constant battle, and that is a constant set of me dragging him into color corrected light areas so he can see it properly. And now they've gone and changed it, and they've added about 20% more magenta to it. So now everything's going to be darker.
It's like changing the motorsport colors and losing the tradition of the purple. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, they did that quite a while back, but and they went to sort of the light blue, navy blue, and red. And of course, they never gave us I had to guess at that for a long time. And then we did so, and then when we had the first Bimmer Life issue, and this is not something really spread around, but when we did the first Bimmer Life issue, we asked the advertisers to submit their ad designs before they could be approved to be run. We were running, we were telling people that if you want to advertise in this new magazine, it has to meet a certain aesthetic goal. And BMW submitted theirs. And they submitted their actual full vector motorsport logo as part of it. And I finally got my hands on those colors. It was like, yes, and now they've changed them again. So that was something I'd waited like 6 years to get my hands on. And when I finally did, and now here, 2 years later, they've changed them again. And now they've given out the formulas. Although in the new version of the guidelines, they took them out again. So that's why I had to sneak them into that presentation. If you look in the chat panel down close to the bottom, you should see the link to download that PDF of the presentation information for tonight. And we will be, have been recording this whole thing. So anyone who wasn't able to attend should be able to watch it online. I think Ed will probably process it and try to get it posted in the next few days. Obviously, this has been an over hour-long recording, so it might take a while to process it. All right. Does anyone have any last questions before we wrap this up?
Just thank you, Len. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, thank you guys for attending. I'm always amazed at how many people are interested in the design aspect of things, but it makes me feel good. All right. Thank you, guys. Have a great night, and we will see if I can figure out how to end the meeting. All right. Take care, guys.
How many people?
Thanks, Len. Good
How many people were on the meeting?
It looks like, I think we topped out at close to 40, and we're down about 29 right now. All right. Talk to you later, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Len.
Thank you, Len. Thanks for your time.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks, Len. Appreciate it.